Hello and welcome back to the Nerd Soup Podcast. I am Aaron, the Nerd Soup Monkey, at Nerd Soup Monkey on Twitter. You can also find the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. We'll put the links in the description. Now, we're going to try and get more and more of these podcasts to you guys in the future. I know our podcasts have been few and far between, but if you have listened in the past, you know they're a little different from our animated videos. We're going to be trying some new things and trying to get a little more structure than our previous podcasts. So if you have any tips or any segment ideas, let us know. But for today, we're going to be talking about Black Panther and where it holds up in the MCU as a whole, a quick review of Annihilation. We'll probably get a spoiler review for you guys out in the coming weeks once everyone gets a chance to see it. We're also going to touch on the Batgirl news and who would we like to see replace Joss Whedon. So, and then we're going to take some questions for you guys at the end. You guys tweeted me a lot of questions on Twitter. And, you know, if you want to skip ahead at any time, if you didn't see Black Panther yet or Annihilation and you don't want to know anything about it, we'll put some timestamps in the description for you guys. And, so let's get it started with Black Panther. Now, I wasn't on our Black Panther review. Beau gave his thoughts. You can check his video out on the YouTube channel. But, I figured I'd give my quick take on it and then see where it ranks in the MCU as a whole. Because I definitely think it deserves to be in the upper echelon of MCU films. I thought everything from the acting to direction was great in this film. The character development, we had a great villain in Killmonger, probably one of the best villains in the MCU to date. The world building was just fantastic in this film. I love how they mixed the African culture with the futuristic tech of Wakanda. It really felt lived in. You see in other MCU films, I'll throw Asgard, for example. You know, I never really felt like it was an actual place, more of just a setting, where Wakanda, even though we only get a couple of scenes on the streets of Wakanda, just that culture is woven into everything they do as a whole. So I really love that. And as far as Killmonger, I mean, we finally get a Marvel villain with some depth, some backstory. You might not really agree with the way he goes about achieving his goals, but you can kind of understand his motivation. I love the insight we get to that character. It makes you really understand from an outside perspective. And T'Challa, a lot of people say Chadwick Boseman and Black Panther were kind of, left more to be desired in this film. I totally disagree. I loved his inner conflict he had. He played such a cool, collected, calm character, cool under pressure, and then just the struggle of just trying to be a good king and doing what you know what's right and balancing that with what your people want and trying to make the best outcome and sticking to your guns even though that's not what everyone wants you to do. And, the whole heavy lies the crown type deal. And I love that dynamic between those two characters. And some of the dislikes I had were a little nitpicky because there really isn't much to not like about this film. The CGI was a little shaky at times. I mean, there's one scene on the mountains where it kind of looks like, you ever play like 2K, the video game crowds, where they take one portion and it looks like they just copy and paste it throughout the whole arena? It kind of looked like that, but I think the cinematography as a whole was fantastic, but sometimes the computer effects lacked. And, it had some of those Marvel tropes in there, which I've always had a problem with if you've seen a few of the videos. It doesn't really kill the movie for me, and I did feel this movie was different, but it still kind of reverted back to the old Marvel tropes at times, which I really could have done without, But like I said before, it's very minor, and this is a little spoilery, it's a tough word to say. But if you want to skip ahead, and another little thing I disliked was certain characters like W'Kabi, how they kind of just changed from being T'Challa's best friend and joking around, and then the next scene when T'Challa doesn't get Claw, he's on team Killmonger. Just out of nowhere. They seemed like they had a good friendship, and they might have disagreed, but I don't think that was enough to, revolt against your king. But, like I said, very minor, and I still enjoyed the film as a whole. Yeah, so those were my quick thoughts on the movie. Like I said, you can go check out Beau's review on the YouTube channel. Now, been seeing this a lot. Where does it rank in the MCU hierarchy? How does it rank with the rest of the films? Beau put a list out on Twitter. He had it number 1. And while I do agree it's in the upper echelon of Marvel films, like I said, I don't quite give it number 1. I would say, though, it's the best debut film for a Marvel superhero. So better than Iron Man 1, better than Captain America, First Avenger, definitely better than Thor, better than Doctor Strange, those types of movies. But for me, the MCU, I kind of have 3 tiers for it. It's, the really good films, the top of the top, the cream of the crop of the MCU. Then there's that middle, like where I think the MCU strives for, just, copy cutter MCU films. And then there are the ones that are subpar, ones like Thor 1 and 2, Iron Man 2, Ant-Man for me. I fucking hate Ant-Man. I know a lot of people like it, and that's fine. Everything I hate about Marvel is in that movie for me. The upper echelon, I would say Captain America, The Winter Soldier is still the best for me. I think it's clearly the best MCU film. Then I would have to go Avengers, Guardians, Black Panther, then Iron Man 1. But yeah, it's definitely ranks up there. It's just a fantastic film. And, it's absolutely killing it at the box office. 2 weeks strong right now. I think the only other movies higher than it so far at the time of the recording were Jurassic World and The Force Awakens. So shout out to all those pieces of shit that tried to compromised the movie by downvoting it on IMDb like a week before it came out. That really worked out well for you guys, so shouts out to you. All right, now we'll go to a movie I just seen recently, Annihilation. If you were a fan of sci-fi, I recommend this movie 100%. I'll be very vague and quick on this because the movie did just come out. I'll give you guys a chance to see it, and a lot of the themes and the ambiguity of the film is something you really need to watch, and I don't really want to talk about. We'll probably throw out a spoiler podcast going forward. I know me and Beau are reading the book right now, so we're going to try to finish it. And maybe do a comparison and a spoiler review moving forward. But, man, Alex Garland, this guy can direct sci-fi. Ex Machina and now Annihilation. Only 2 films so far, but, I mean, if you're going to do it right, and he certainly does. I mean, with Annihilation, you're just going to get a beautiful film. Like I said, it's very open-ended, many different interpretations. Me and Beau were talking about the movie after we seen it, and we both had a different interpretation, which I think that's the best part about film. You can go see a good movie and, very close-ended and everyone gets the same thing out of it. But it's the film that has people talking and have different interpretations and has a life of its own after its viewing, which I find the best part about it. And the performances are pretty good as well. Natalie Portman, at first, the first part of the movie, she's very one note, but that's kind of her character. And as the movie goes on and we see more of her character and we visit this world, the performance really comes out and she comes to her own in this film, which is no surprise because Natalie Portman's pretty much really good in everything she does. Now, the movie is a slow burn. It is slow at times, but I felt, every now and then it gives you something that pushes it forward where it keeps the viewer on board. So it doesn't get to a point where it feels like it's dragging out for too long. I feel like once you start to get that feeling, something pushes it ahead and you're on board for that next sequence. Just a quick score from me. Definitely give it a 9 out of 10. I thought it was a brilliant piece of sci-fi. And if you enjoyed Ex Machina, or just Seinfeld. Everyone enjoys Seinfeld. Just sci-fi in general, I definitely recommend go seeing this film. February's been a good month for films, Usually January, February is kind of a lull for movies, but the past 2 years, we have Annihilation and Black Panther this February. Last February, we had Get Out and Lego Batman. So, hey, maybe February's a new December. So, put that on your calendar.
Can you describe its form?
It's destroying everything.
It's not destroying. It's making something new.
All right, now we'll get to some Batgirl stuff. As you may know, Joss Whedon, to the enjoyment of many people out there, is out of Batgirl. Now, apparently he didn't have a script or he had no idea, which I'm pretty sure you're supposed to have somewhat of an idea on what you're going to be doing before you start the movie, but what are you going to do? So we're going to talk into some possible replacements. I have Beau Oliver, my first guest on the podcast. It's only right. He needs a little help out what he's doing, so I figured, I'll help him move along, get his name out there. So how you doing, Beau?
Good. I'm glad you guys had me on. It's a channel that I've watched for about 2 years since it got started, and it's one of my favorite channels out there. Not as good as Nerdwriter. Not the best nerd channel out there, but
we try.
I give it number 17.
So what are your feelings on the whole Joss Whedon scenario?
Well, I don't believe that he didn't have a story, because apparently when he signed on, he said, yeah, I have a great story. I'm kind of just looking for an actress to cast. I don't know if I'm going to go with an A-lister. Might get somebody unknown. It's just another DCEU example of they have no idea what the fuck they're doing. They announce movies, and they're not happening. They get directors, and those directors quit, and they back off. I think the Nightwing director, Chris McKay, said that he's just never going to back off. He's like, unless they fire me, I am not leaving this project. I'll stay on for 10 years.
They're so dysfunctional.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of people would say that they have the better characters than Marvel. And it's just so easy to set up these universes. The comics are doing such a great job, DC Comics. And I think Joss Whedon was a perfect choice for Batgirl, too. I don't care about what happened in his personal life. I don't care that he cheated on his wife. That's between him and his wife. I don't think you should take away work from somebody because his wife said he cheated on her. That's just me. I felt the same thing with Tiger Woods. I didn't understand the outrage. He's a film director, you know? He's not the moral standard of what a man is supposed to be in a relationship with a woman. And I thought he was a good choice because he crafts characters similar to Batgirl. If you read the Batgirl comics, he's done Buffy. Everybody enjoyed his work on Firefly. Everybody loves the Avengers. I thought he was a good choice, but once again, it's the DC dysfunction.
Yeah, they're kind of like the Mets.
They're the Mets.
Something wrong with it.
Yeah.
Marvel.
Great market.
Marvel just has so much real estate in their heads at this point where they're trying to one-up them instead of trying to worry about themselves and try to make better films. But yeah, it's kind of the notion now that female-led movie needs a female director or female writers. You know, which I can see trying to get their perspective on a female-led film. But for me, it's just more getting the best person to do the film, regardless of, you know, race or gender or things like that.
It's a tricky situation when you start boxing in female directors and people of color into only directing films that are about people of color or women. You know, why can't Patty Jenkins direct Terminator, the next Terminator movie, or the next Star Wars movie? With that said, I think the best replacement for Joss Whedon, and you said this too before we started recording, is Greta Gerwig. Because people will say, oh, she's never done action. Anybody can do action. Just get some nice action coordinators, choreographers.
Right. It's about where they want to go with the character and the story.
And with Lady Bird, I mean, if you can do that for Batgirl, to get into her vulnerabilities, her motivations, why she wants to put on the cowl.
You don't need action.
Yeah, right. And make it a detective story as well.
Was The Dark Knight the most action-packed superhero film you ever seen?
And I think this could be the best Batman story we ever had if we get somebody like Greta Gerwig, who's known for her character stuff rather than, you know, a big budget action thriller. You don't need that for Batgirl. You can do the run that's going on right now with Hope Larson is Batgirl in Tokyo. And it's awesome. Do Batgirl in Tokyo. You don't need a $200 million budget for that. You have $50 million to $100 million. Do something small, scale it back, focus on actual practical sets and the detective work of Batgirl.
Right, like if they wanted to go the direction of like a coming-of-age Batgirl where she's transitioning into adulthood while dealing with becoming Batgirl, you can get the same feel from the Lady Bird, where we're watching her make this transition and come into her own. And I think a story like that, you know, you can throw in, you know, some good villains and some different obstacles she has to overcome. But I also have, I don't know how you feel about this, Catherine Bigelow. She's
I love Catherine
from the Hurt Locker, Zero Dark 30. A more realistic, grittier Batgirl film. Something kind of Dark Knight-ish.
Yeah, even though I wouldn't be mad at Catherine Bigelow directing Batgirl, I think I would prefer it to be less gritty. Detroit, I totally forgot about Detroit when I was making my top 10 list.
Detroit.
Which, going back, I might have put it on over Shape of Water, but that's a whole nother debate. I really love Detroit. Just from a technical level, I think Catherine Bigelow is a great director when it comes to thrilling stories. That her camera movements, the way that she places her actors within a scene, she's great at moving the camera, and that's really my big thing with directors. And the action, she would be perfect for that. I think Catherine Bigelow would be a better, good fit. I think Greta Gerwig would be a better fit because Batgirl is kind of like, Batman is a sicko. He's obsessed with being Batman. I think Batgirl
She would do a good Batman movie.
Yeah, I think she'd be better for Batman. Yeah. Batgirl is more, she's not obsessed with being Batgirl. She's obsessed with being a good person and being like her dad. She's very inspired by Commissioner Gordon. I don't think she's a sociopath. I think Batman is a full-fledged sociopath. Like, I think he's a nutcase. He's a good person. He's like Sherlock. You know, in the end of Sherlock when he's fighting Moriarty and he's like, I fight on the side of the angels, but I'm not one of them. That's Batman. Batgirl is more like, hey, you know, like she's a little James Bondy too. She's kind of she has fun in the role of Batgirl. But Bigelow would be good.
I can see Batgirl's having a good time beating up on some bad guys.
Yeah.
And then another one, David Leitch, not David Lynch, not David Lynch. Although,
well, give Lynch anything, I don't care.
Yeah, David Lynch can direct Chipmunks 4, and I'd watch it.
Oh my god!
Imagine.
Now that's So I could see him doing something like that.
He's the director of Atomic Blonde, and I know a male director, but you know I think he'll do a good job. He's also done the John Wick. This is more of the like action-packed, just Batgirl is kicking ass for 2 hours, which I wouldn't be opposed to either. It's all about what direction they want to go to, but I think with him, you could do an action-packed, like kind of Black Ops, but like on a smaller scale within Gotham.
Right.
Not like an Atomic Blonde where it's like international, you know, CIA work, but more shorter scale in Gotham. Maybe something like that. How do you feel about that?
I would like that too. I mean, I didn't like Atomic Blonde.
I thought it was fine. You know, it wasn't anything groundbreaking, but it was a fun movie. And it depends what you're looking for. If you want like a fun, action-packed, you know.
He's doing Deadpool too.
He is.
So.
Oh yeah.
And that looks good. I mean, I think Deadpool 2 is more similar to Batgirl than something like Atomic Blonde because Deadpool is another character who's very tongue-in-cheek.
Is he writing or is he directing it?
He's directing it. And I
shit.
think it's the same writers from the first one. But he's also got his partner. I forget who directed John Wick. Well, the guy he directed John Wick 1 with, there was 2 directors. He did John Wick 2, which I felt was better than John Wick 1. And then I see Atomic Blonde, and I'm thinking, maybe it was his partner who was the better director. Even though that staircase scene, the fighting scene in Atomic Blonde, that sequence was incredible. I think he'd be a good choice. Out of all these, I still go with Greta Gerwig.
Yeah, it's all about where they want to go with the film.
And I think Joss Whedon's going back to Marvel. I really do. I think he's going to do Black Widow.
Oh my God.
Which, I mean, I hate this whole idea that you need a female director for a female character because I think it's counterintuitive.
I get it.
For some instances, it works. Like for Batgirl, I think a female perspective would be better because Batgirl is very feminine. And I'm not saying that that she's weak because she's feminine, but she's a woman. And she embraces her womanhood within the Batman stories. Like, she'll kick your ass, but then, you know, she'll go get mani-pedis with one of her girlfriends, you know? And that's who Batgirl is. And I think that's when when James Cameron criticized Wonder Woman, where's the Sarah Connors type characters? You don't dress women in men's clothes and call them strong characters. I think that's not how you make a great female character. You allow them to be who they are, but they can still kick ass.
Well, speaking of Patty Jenkins too, she wasn't all tied up in Wonder Woman, but I think she can do a producer's role on this. Maybe
I can see her producing it.
Give some direction to
story.
Yeah,
kind of.
I mean, she's already in the Warner Brothers team, right? So it's just a waste of an asset if you don't use her at this point. You can use her on mostly anything. Yeah, and like what you said, I just want someone to make a good film, you know? DC needs it. But yeah, I think Greta Gerwig would be the perfect choice, and I don't know, let's see. And if he does do Black Widow, talking about Joss Whedon again, man, he's just going to get killed all over again.
I don't know where this hate for Joss Whedon has come from. I think
I understand the want to have more diversity in like these big franchises, the MCU, Star Wars, DC. But
even before that, people have been turning on Joss Whedon. And I think it's a lot of his feminism feels very disingenuous. Yeah. Like he's doing it just to get out in front of everybody, to make him seem like he has the moral high ground on everybody in Hollywood. And then all this stuff about his wife came out about him. See, I didn't care about all his personal stuff before the wife came out. Like, I didn't like Joss Whedon personally, but I don't judge his films based on whether I like him personally or not. I love The Avengers. I think he's a good and capable writer and director, and I think he would have been good for Batgirl. I think he'd be great for Black Widow. But, I mean, I don't know why everybody why we can't separate the personal life from the art, especially since Joss Whedon hasn't committed any crimes. That's my whole thing.
It's not the moral thing to do, but yeah, like you said, it's not like you didn't get committed of a crime or anything or something like too egregious, but I could see the other side. But, you know, with everything, try to find some middle ground. Just find someone to make a good film.
I guess it's not a great optic, but
yeah,
who knows if Black Widow's even going to get made. Knowing Marvel, it will be made. If it was DC, you know, they've announced every fucking movie under the sun, and none of them seem to be happening.
The New York Mets.
The New York Mets of film.
All right, I'll transition now to take a little bit of your questions. This is really cool, actually, because, you know, we tweeted it out. We're doing some questions for the podcast, and we've got a bunch of responses, and that's pretty cool. Like, people care about our opinions enough to ask us questions. I mean, it wasn't a ton, but even a little. It's still a good feeling. And if you want to email us questions for our next podcast, you can do so at nerdsoupforyou@gmail.com. We'll put a link up, and yeah, give us your emails, any question you want. We'll always pick a few throughout each podcast that we want to answer. All right, our first it's from two different people, but they asked a similar question, so we'll lump it all together. We have at IngramBen4 and at Top Movie Moment. Their questions are opinions on Benioff and Weiss getting a Star Wars trilogy, and are you looking forward to the Weiss and Benioff Star Wars film? So pretty much the same thing.
Well, we made a joke about this on one of our videos, and I love it. Even though we made the joke like, oh, they're going to go ruin Star Wars now too, which I defend them all the time with Game of Thrones. I don't understand this whole notion that it's George R.R. Martin that made Game of Thrones great, which obviously he's a very important part of it, but you still have to film the damn thing.
Yeah.
There's cinematography, there's casting, there's locations, there's dialogue that doesn't appear in the books. We just talked about this on our last review, you know, scenes that didn't appear in the books that they wrote themselves. It's not easy. How many times do we see Hollywood adapt source material terribly, where they absolutely look at DC?
Right. Yeah.
They have decades of source material and they can't get it right. And you hear stories about how the pilot episode, the first time they shot it, it was awful. So I'm thrilled. I think they're going to take it to the Old Republic. I think it's going to be a more political Star Wars. I think it's going to be the most adult Star Wars we've ever had. I think there's going to be a lot of lightsabers. There's going to be a lot of Sith and Jedi, and the political maneuverings of how the Jedi took control of the Republic, essentially, for the millennium that Yoda says. You know, the Jedi have defended the Republic for 900 years, for my entire life. So I'm thrilled about the news.
Yeah, people think that, season 1 through 4, which a lot of people say are the best seasons, like, oh, that's all George, like you said. No, it's not. They had some of the best. We were just talking on one of our last reviews about the Varys and Littlefinger things. Like, that's not in the books. Like, they make that up because there's no point of view. And even little things like that. But yeah, you still have to adapt the material. Like, it's not an easy thing to do. From the scale, even if you don't like season 7 or season 6, which I think season 6 is one of the best seasons of the show. I think it's fantastic. And even if you don't like season 7, I mean, it's still spectacular to watch. Like, there's so many great moments of that season.
I think it's the worst season, but I still think it's
the worst season of Game of Thrones is still better than anything on television.
Yeah, it was still really good.
So yeah,
in terms of the quality of Star Wars, I think what they did with season 7 was much better than what Rian Johnson did with The Last Jedi. And I think The Last Jedi is a good film, but I think they didn't take Game of Thrones into a direction where it was unrecognizable at points. It still felt like Game of Thrones. It just wasn't up to the standard that we were used to.
I mean, imagine being in their position too, having all this source material and then having it cut off out of nowhere and having to piece everything together that they set up.
Yeah, we give George 7 years to write the books. We give these guys like 3 months.
Like, they had to put all the pieces with nothing. It's cut off. They probably still have more information than we do about different storylines, but that's all they got. So now they probably set up things that they didn't have anything to back it with now.
Yeah, we can't praise George for creating this intricate and complicated story and then turn around and say, well, why aren't you guys up to the standard of George when you only have 2 months to write it? When we give George, it's almost a decade we're coming on since the last book. There's a reason it takes him that long to write this story. Well, especially for him, because there's more going on. But it's not like, season 4 ended and then it was just like, well, let's just wrap it up. These story threads were not finished, and they had to tie them to the ending that they found out from George at the beginning. But yeah, and the whole thing, why doesn't Star Wars hire women and people of color to direct and write their films? D&D are only writing these films. They're not directing them.
Well, I think they're heading it. They might not even be the writers.
Right. They're producing it. So maybe they bring in film number 1, Ryan Coogler, when he's done with Black Panther 2. I think we need to pump the brakes and see what's going to happen, even with the Ryan Johnson trilogy.
They do have experience of heading a massive world and building a new world, Westeros, and a huge franchise. It's become one of the biggest shows of all time. So they know, like, this pressure. They know how to maneuver and they know how to create. So it's only fitting that they do Star Wars now. It's kind of the same scope and really the same fandom as it's starting to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited about it.
me too. Good question. There's a good one from Shays Tini. It says Scott, so I'm going to call you Scott. Why Nerd Soup? Why are you a monkey? Why is Beau a weird cricket-like alien creature? These questions keep me up at night. Help. Well, we're nice guys. We want you to get your 8 hours. So,
Well, I'll answer the cricket question. The cricket was a character that I doodled in one of my textbooks during high school. I think it was during chemistry, 11th grade. I swear to God, I still have the book. Not my textbook, my notebook. And I wanted to make a show about him where he was a detective, where he was an alien that got just crash landed on Earth, and he just became a detective for some reason. And his partner was going to be a polar bear that he mutated to talk, and I was going to get Teddy to voice it. And then when we started doing this, when I just was I'm just going to have this character review movies instead of solve crimes. So I just kept him. If you watch the older videos, it's a different design, but kind of cleaned him up. And for the monkey, for you, I just hit you up one day and was like, you want to be on one of the videos? And I just made you a cartoon monkey.
I kind of embodied the monkey aspect of it. It's part of me now. I don't know who I am anymore.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, I think I created the human version of myself.
Oh,
I've always been the alien cricket.
You've always been the alien, yeah. We're actually just
Avatar.
We're avatars, yeah. We are these things.
I don't know which one is the real world anymore.
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Dark Plagueis the Wise? That's good.
I have. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you. And as for Nerd Soup, I don't know. Just soup. I like soup. Big soup guy.
From @Crimson Western, what is your favorite Tarantino movie and why? What scenes, aspects, or characters make it great?
My favorite Tarantino movie is Django Unchained. I was thinking of saying The Hateful Eight because I just saw that recently. I don't know why I skipped it. I wanted to go see it in 70mm, but there was such a controversy because it came out around the same time as Star Wars, and it wasn't playing in as much theaters as he'd liked it to, as he would have liked it to. But Django's my favorite because I think it's Tarantino firing at all cylinders. Everybody says he's a great writer of dialogue, and I think the dialogue in that movie is just top-notch. And characters that I loved, Leonardo DiCaprio is Calvin Candy. I think he was robbed of an Oscar nomination, not the win because Waltz is incredible, but his dynamic with Samuel L. Jackson, the fact that he's this awful human being, he's an idiot, he has no idea how to run his plantation, and Samuel L. Jackson is essentially the one in charge. But all the performances in that movie are incredible, and I think it's his best work so far.
I'm going to have to go with Inglourious Bastards. It's probably the movie I've seen the most out of any movie besides Goodfellas, which I actually watched again today. It's on Netflix now, so shout out to
Another
Netflix.
Great, the opening scene, talk about dialogue.
Oh my God. That is one of the most chilling, suspenseful scenes I've ever seen in my life.
That might be his best written scene, just in all of his movies.
Oh, it's just the way Christoph Waltz changes on a snap from asking for a nice, delicious, glass of milk to it's like you are hiding enemies of the state in your floorboards, are you not? And then it's chilling, really. And characters, Christoph Waltz. You said you were talking about him in Django Unchained. This is probably as good as the performances were in that
better.
was.
This is better.
It makes the whole movie because Brad Pitt's really good in it too, but. The best part of this movie is Christoph Waltz.
Yeah, it's an almost impossible character to play. Tarantino said he didn't want to make the movie because he couldn't find an actor to play this character. Initially, he wanted Leo, which thank God he didn't get him for this because Waltz, this was his breakout role.
Yeah.
And he's incredible. And I also love the scene when he's talking to the daughter that escapes in the beginning, and they're sitting down and they're eating their their cake. And he's like, I forgot to order the
strudel.
creme. Yeah, their strudel. I love the way he delivers the line when he says he forgot to order the cream. He's talking in German or French.
Yeah.
He's
just
just so
French,
great.
Italian, English, German.
Yeah. Oh, well, the Italian scene, too, when he breaks out the Italian at the end.
And the cellar scene in the bar is
one
of the best scenes Tarantino's ever
3
done.
glasses.
So that little thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Screws him.
Yeah.
That's such a suspenseful scene that kind of it goes on long, but at every second you're on the edge of your seat in that scene.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like about that movie is the ending.
You don't like how it changed history?
No, I don't care about changing history. I just think it's in Django too. It's I feel like Tarantino just hits the panic button at the end of his movies. It's just blow everything up.
I do
Everybody dies.
do like at the end when he's like, I like also nominate Lieutenant Aldo Rain and his assistant for the Congressional Medal of Honor as well. And he gives him a look like, I got you guys.
Yeah. No, that part is great. But like the movie theater and it's still a great movie. It's probably, I guess it would be number 3 for me.
Let's see. A lot of questions are about, about us. You want to know more about us. This guy, DZ17X, wants to know more about our guys. Favorite food, hobbies, sports. Do we have any kids? Favorite board games, favorite bands, type of music. You really added a lot. That's one question. I don't know if that's allowed in the rules.
Well, board game, I think that's easy.
Monopoly.
Yeah.
We play Monopoly a lot on the PS4.
Which I just won last night, so.
I can't even say that anymore. I had a good streak going of not coming in last. But
how pathetic is that?
That's sadly ended.
That was his streak. I kid you not, Nash made me the worst trade in the history of Monopoly last night.
Yeah.
I gave him the sets for the reds and the yellows, and he gave me the light blues, the oranges, and the pinks. And on top of that, I had Boardwalk and Park Place. So I had like complete domination of the game. It was so funny. Nash was so pissed. I was like, that trade is it's already trending on Twitter, Nash. Sports Illustrated is writing an article.
And Teddy has a nerve to put in his Twitter bio that he's the Monopoly champion. Has he won a game yet?
No, he hasn't won once.
Okay.
Can't even beat his girlfriend.
Sports. I played football in high school, and I'm currently on a pretty good men's league hockey team, the Chaw Dogs. We're not doing so well right now, but we'll find our footings. And Beau once scored 11 points off the bench against Longwood in a basketball game in high school.
Yes, I played varsity basketball, and it was
nice.
one of the worst experiences of my life. I wish I would have quit. Hobbies, watching movies, video games.
No kids. There's a couple people ask us how old we are. I'm 25.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, that sucks.
How old are you?
24.
Oh, wow. Favorite band? I'd have to go with The Killers and Muse. Type of music, I like alternative hip-hop a lot. I'm also a big rap guy, huge fan of Jay-Z and some of the classics,
My favorite band, I guess it's a cliche answer, but it would just have to be the Beatles.
Oh, yeah, that's given. I don't even say the Beatles because everyone knows.
But that's like the only band where I've like listened to everything they've ever released.
Yeah.
Like, I like Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. But music, I listen to everything but metal. I listen to everything for music. It's like movies for me.
Yeah,
I'll watch any movie.
Same as well. I listen to everything if it's good. I hate radio music though. You ever listen to the radio? Terrible.
I don't even know what that is.
It's so bad.
That's a device?
Well, I only listen to sports radio because the real radio.
Sports radio, yeah.
The real radio just plays the same song over and over again, and it's gonna, I don't like it. Well, I'll do a couple more. Game of Thrones question because we are Game of Thrones. That's what people know us for. So I think we'll get back to the basics. This one's from Hannah Keller 16. What do you think John and Daniel will have? Boy, girl, twins. Love your channel, by the way. Thanks, Hannah. I picked this question because I don't think there's going to be any children.
I think they're going to have a kid.
Really?
I think they're going to have a kid. I think it's going to be a girl.
Yeah, I picked this question because it ties with another one, like different theories you like. And one theory I do like is that they're not going to have any children because Daenerys it's prophesized that she can't have any children.
I think they're going to have... The one theory that I liked is that they're going to have a girl, and Daenerys will die in childbirth, Jon will die fighting the Night King, and Tyrion will raise the kid.
Ooh.
And they'll name it after Lyanna.
Ooh.
And she'll be the next ruler of Westeros. I don't know. It's tough. I really don't know how they're going to end the show. I'm starting to think it's going to be different from the books. Because I have an idea of how they're going to end the book. I don't know what they're going to do with the show. The show has gone so cinematic.
Yeah.
Where I definitely think they're
it's a good video idea. Maybe in the future we can dive deeper into that because we have a lot of time until Game of Thrones kicks off. So.
Twins would be interesting. They popped out 2 more Targaryens. That's never good though because then they're going to have to marry each other.
Yeah. Well, you got to time's a circle.
Keeps on ticking. Yeah, that's
goes
true.
Back around.
Arrival, good movie.
Arrival
or Annihilation?
I love Arrival.
I put that over Annihilation. Annihilation was great though. When you were talking about it before, I was like chomping on the bit. I just want to say, Annihilation, one of my top 25 movies of all time.
You liked it that much?
I loved it.
You see it again yet?
I'm going to see it tomorrow.
Nice.
Time keeps on ticking.
All right, so I'll wrap up this new direction we're taking the Nerd Soup podcast in. If you like it, let us know. If you have any tips, anything you'd like to see us do, and any questions, please leave some comments. And yeah, like I said earlier, we're going to try to do these more and more often. Maybe start out a couple times a week and then go from there. So we look forward to talking to you guys again. So Beau has a gun on me right now because I forgot to mention to like, subscribe, and comment, which you have to do. Or
It doesn't count if you don't do that.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.